the world looks profoundly different. Some of the biggest financial institutions in the world are here in this room with us, but it's not just them. We have the prime brokers, the application builders, the investment banks, the ETF issuers, as we just discussed, and everyone in between. Crypto and blockchain have moved from being taboo words to being part of the fabric of society. And let's be clear, you are all part of this movement. In fact, you all are this movement. So thank you.
XRP at the center of Ripple's roadmap. During today's episode, we break it down. As Ripple just released a brand new roadmap for the institutional DeFi blueprint every XRP investor has been waiting for. With permission domains and a permission DEX set to go live in the next 14 days, we're going to break down how the largest companies on the planet just got access to the XRP ledger, bringing in tokenized assets at scale. Hello and welcome back to another episode of Good Evening Crypto, your favorite crypto news related channel. If you enjoy this content, smash that like button and subscribe, as you're going to get an update every single day, 5:30 p.m. Eastern time. And be sure to stick around to the end of today's episode, as we're going to break down the war against Swift that began with Ripple dating all the way back in 2013. But to kick off today's show, I want to get right into these documents as XRP at the center, as Ripple lays out its institutional DeFi blueprint for the XRP ledger. And what's really happening here? Well, Ripple just announced that they are going to be releasing permission domains on the XRP ledger. And now this will coincide with a permissioned exchange that will achieve validator consensus in the next 2 weeks. After the full permission stack is alive, this will be available for institutions to access compliant liquidity pools on the XRP ledger. And for the people out there who don't know, this is basically a VIP room for trading tokenized assets. Checking IDs, verified rules, everybody operating by the same rules and guidelines. And this is going to unlock institutional access to many of the products that we've been discussing every day. Now, Ripple is removing the final barrier here that's been preventing banks from using the XRP ledger, unlocking billions in capital flows in tokenized assets alone. Ripple has over 300 banking partnerships, so many are asking, why isn't there massive on-chain value? David Schwartz indicated directly that by leveraging the new permission domain protocols, we could see the largest providers begin to tap into the XRP ledger and bring tokenized assets at scale. The permission domains are live on XRP, and with the permission DEX going live on February 18th, this is going to unlock compliant institutional liquidity for the first time in history. Now, that's not all when you think about the developments on the XRP ledger, because we know Ripple has received a national trust bank charter here inside the United States, which is a really unique advantage going forward. Under the Trump administration, he has prioritized stablecoins in order to give more economies around the world access to the US dollar. Well, we're starting to see a consensus on who will be able to offer stablecoins. And here in the US, it will only be American banks. Circle has just backed a brand new Fed Skinny account, and a door just opened for Ripple as well as other crypto banks to plug directly into the Fed payment system. Circle has officially backed the Federal Reserve's proposal for a Skinny payment account, a limited Fed account that would give stablecoin issuers direct access to the Fed payment rails without becoming a fully licensed bank. Now, this is massive for the Ripple protocol because it sets a regulatory pathway for companies like Ripple, which have a conditional approval of becoming a national trust bank, to operate in a bank-like infrastructure inside of the Federal Reserve system without needing a traditional banking charter. This would give crypto firms direct access to FedWire and FedNow, cutting out the middlemen and leaving the banks shaking in their boots. But guys, if you're excited about this, smash that like button. If you're not, leave some thoughts underneath the video. But Johnny, there's a whole nother layer that we're going to break down, which is the onboarding of these large companies into the XRP ledger. And we are going to play a clip from David Schwartz explaining that. But what's your initial reaction? Ripple lays out the roadmap, and once again, XRP is taking center stage.
Yeah, Abs. I mean, this is kind of like, I don't want to say it's the watershed moment, like the moment we've been waiting for, but I will tell you this. This is a big freaking moment. I don't know if people understand. I'll just break it down very simple. This basically means at the end of the day, it's like transforming XRP from just like a currency you hold into a capital working asset, Abs. That means institutions must use and settle trades with it. Pay, now you're really talking about, like, it's different between me and you sending XRP to each other, right? But if they're actually settling and they're actually using it to perform transactions, that becomes a game changer at the levels where you and I will never be able to draw the demand, for example, that's going to what everybody wants, create that price appreciation or create that. See, here's the thing, Abs. I think we've all been looking about it wrong. We're all trying to figure out how how do these cryptos get valued? And it's like, well, the more use you have, the higher it goes up. Well, yeah, that's one way. But I really think in the long run, when this becomes a more defined market, what's going to happen is, like anything else, what's your house worth? Well, your house is worth the value of what other houses around it are worth. And that's similar to, I think, what's going to happen with the crypto. What's the crypto worth? Well, it's going to be worth whatever the ledger it's worth. And that ledger is going to be based on these utilities, these cases. If the world needs it, then it becomes much, much more valuable. And I think then the smart financial people will figure out, okay, this is how you assign a value to this blockchain. This is what it's worth. And then therefore the cryptocurrency of that blockchain is worth X or Y, Z of that. And so to me, this is just moving us in the right direction of solidifying that XRP is here to stay. But now, not just in the hopes that it's going to be something real, but the fact that it now has a true functional use case at the highest level with institutions at the highest money. To me, this is a big, big breakthrough.
And we talked about it in a couple of videos prior, Johnny, XRP potentially being used as collateral. This is a whole nother layer to that conversation. But Brad Garlinghouse came out just a couple of hours ago and stated, glad to see the message is finally even more clear. XRP family has and always will be at the top of mind for Ripple. And that was in response to this article getting a lot of attention on Twitter. But there's a whole nother narrative here. So you have the onboarding of large companies through the domains protocol and the decentralized DEX. That's what we just talked about right here. And this is going to allow for over 300 banking partners that Ripple's already working with to tap into the XRP ledger. The second layer of this that we're discussing is the access to the Fed liquidity through Ripple's national banking charter. And that's what I'm going to focus on for a second here, guys, because this is going to give Ripple's company direct access to the Fed's reserves. And we've never seen this before in the history of crypto. Ripple's subsidiary, Standard Custody and Trust, has applied for a Federal Reserve master account. If approved, Ripple could hold RLUSD reserves directly with United States Central Bank, removing the need for commercial bank intermediaries and lowering counterparty risk. You coincide this with the National Trust Banking approval that we saw earlier in 2025 and the implementation of the new protocols that we just outlined, Johnny, and we have the perfect storm for real companies to be onboarded onto the XRP ledger. I'd love to hear from you guys. One's if you're excited, two's if you think it's a nothing burger, but let's hear what David Schwartz has to say about how big companies are being onboarded as we speak.
We're going to take over the world with solid financial products that solve real world use cases. And we are actually starting to see that now enabled by things like stable coins and tokenized real world assets that let us handle these use cases like payments and like reasonable investments, tokenized money market funds and treasuries. We've actually seen more than 500,000 new wallets created by retail users through applications like Sama. And so we're starting to see that sort of institutional activity driving retail adoption, which I think is going to be over the next year or two. I think that's going to be the dominant theme.
And we're waiting for it, Johnny, because we know retail adoption means massive speculation on the price chart, and that could give us some bullish momentum as we head into the election cycle here. But Ripple just released a brand new article in correlation with this, stating Ripple accelerates the institutional custody adoption with security, compliance, and the most important, staking capabilities. So what are we seeing, Johnny? The picture is being painted here. For big companies to be onboarded into the XRP ledger, have to buy some XRP token and then earn a yield on that token while they're leveraging the XRP ledger protocols. And I want to give an even more clear example because we talked a lot about what this means broadly. Let's talk about what it means for XRP. So if more people are leveraging the permission domains, meaning big companies, banks, companies like BlackRock, for example, well, that means there's going to be a lot more volume on the XRP ledger. And if companies plan on using the XRP ledger at scale, well, there's going to be more fees being paid, there'll be more XRP being burned, and there'll also be large companies holding XRP in their reserves, knowing they're going to have to use it in the future. So we are about to see the dormant money become liquid. We are about to see the largest companies in the world add XRP to their balance sheet, be able to earn a yield on that, and leverage the token within the permission DEX. We've never seen this perfect storm before. But Johnny, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, so my thoughts are kind of like this. I see this in multiple stages. So step one, we've got the financial institutions coming in and they're building this base layer, if you will. And then the next thing, Abs, once that happens, is that's when, of course, then retail will come in some of that and they'll drive it up. They'll hype it all up and all that. But what you really want to look for is then when that next set of companies come in. I'm not talking about institutions, but now I'm talking about actual real companies. Microsoft, adopting the XRP ledger, maybe into AI agents for costs. And there's different ways that all these things can be baked into the back ends. And that will all be kicked off because this will be a trusted back end institutional system. And there'll be much more access to it. So to me, Abs, this is just like step one of unlocking multiple steps of where this thing can go in the future. And for me, that's what's really exciting about it, because they're not going to stop with the banks. You'll see, I think this eventually, this will allow ability or path to be able to tie into the firms we know today, the Amazons of the world, the Microsofts and the Googles. So I think that's the bigger picture here in the long run. I'm really, really excited about it. I think this is where, this is kind of what that speculation portion that we've been hoping for. I think we'll see some of that now. And then we'll see utility coming way, way later.
And when you think about the possibilities here, Johnny, from Ripple working with the biggest companies on the planet, they can go the banking route. They can go the institutional DeFi route. They can go the stablecoin adoption route. They could go the route of the retail investor. But what do we know for sure? Ripple is setting itself up for success under the Trump administration. And this is a brand new update we just got, as Ripple just rocketed into the top 10 most valuable private companies on the planet. You heard that correct. Ripple is now valued at a $50 billion valuation, putting them in the same category as OpenAI, SpaceX, XAI, Stripe, and some other pillars of the American and global economy. But that's not where it ends, Johnny Krypto. Sal Gilberti talked about how if Ripple is able to become a national bank, this could be the watershed moment the XRP community has been waiting for.
The biggest thing that happens is when the Clarity Act passes. I think that's a really big deal for all of DeFi. Okay, in the transition of TradFi to DeFi will be defined and accelerated when that passes. Also, watch very quickly, very specifically, if Ripple is granted a banking license. If Ripple is granted a banking license, I think that changes a lot of things. They become, with their current XRP holdings, quite possibly one of the top 50, maybe the top 30 well-capitalized banks in terms of their balance sheet. And if the price of XRP goes higher, they get to be a really big, well-capitalized bank. That's really important for Ripple and the Ripple ecosystem.
So Johnny, we said it for a long time too. People often like to misconstrue the idea that because Ripple's launching a stablecoin, they've moved away from the XRP ledger. That's absolutely not the case. There's nobody who would love to see the XRP token increase in value more than Ripple with 40 billion tokens on their balance sheet. And I think this private valuation here that we saw, where Ripple climbed in at a $50 billion valuation, a lot of this has to do with the technology, but a lot of this has to do with the amount of XRP that this company owns. And I think as XRP continues to increase in value, even if people think it's only going to $5 or $10, that is still going to make Ripple potentially a $100 billion company pre-IPO, the likes of which we've never seen before. But I'd like to hear from you guys. If you believe Ripple is going to IPO inside the United States, smash the like. If not, leave a comment underneath. Johnny, what are your thoughts on this?
I mean, Abs, it's so, my thoughts are like, I'm sitting there going like, holy cow, these guys just did what the Federal Reserve did. They created money. Think about this, Abs. You and I, if we created a company and we give a great narrative, and then we have this token and we started at a penny and give it to everybody, and then the whole world believes it and drives it up. And now we own half of it, and now we've got multi-millions of dollars. Well, that's exactly what just happened. Now, they were lucky that this market is actually transforming into a real market, and so they have a massive advantage here. You just said it. They're sitting on 35, maybe 40 billion tokens. If that token goes from where we are today at $2 to $10, oh, imagine 20. I mean, they are highly, I could not agree with you more. They are highly incentivized to want to grow XRP. Because if they're going to be a bank, remember, what do banks lend off of? Their balance sheet. The bigger the balance sheet, guess what? The bigger they can lend. So you can see why they're. So when everybody gets, Johnny XR, RSUSD, they don't care about, that's not going to drive the price. No, but you're right. But they are just using that to get people familiar with. There's going to be certain set of groups that are going to want a stable coin. Why not fill that gap? Why can't that be Ripple? And that's what's happening there. But then that's going to get them in the door to have other kind of, oh, we got this other product over here, and this could do this, and it uses XRPL and all that. So the point being is, Abs, I hate when people say, oh, they're moving away from our XRP. No, they're not. They're just, they're playing it smart. They're putting out, let's get this out there, let's get that out there, get all these pieces in place. But now that they become a bank, bro, they drive that XRPR price up. they're going to be more capitalized than banks out there, some of the biggest banks in the world. So to me, that's just brilliant on their part. And that's why, will they IPO? You asked the question. Well, that's an interesting one, right? Because if this is my 8 cents, and then I'll shut up. If they think going an IPO can increase the value of their company more so than what they could do through the appreciation of XRP in its balance sheet, then I would think, sure, why wouldn't you? If I were the CEO of that company and I'm trying to grow my balance sheet and I could grow it 3 times bigger through an IPO versus just raising the price of XRP or getting the price to appreciate, then that's what I'm going to do. So I think that's going to be the answer, and we'll have to do some more deep diving and see how that goes. So for now, I'm not sure. We're going to have to dig deeper, but I think that'll be one of the key decisions of whether they IPO or not, because they don't need the money, abs. They got the money, unless they can get more money. Then it makes sense. Does that make sense?
Well, what do we know for sure, guys, is that while there's major Bitcoin and Ethereum outflows right now, we are seeing inflows on Solana and XRP. In the past 7 days alone, we've seen nearly $700 million worth of outflows from the Bitcoin ETFs alone. When you look at Ethereum, $150 million. Solana, they had $3 million worth of inflows, but XRP really stands alone. While the market was bleeding, big money was buying in, $40 million worth of inflows in the same week when $700 million left Bitcoin through these ETF products. I think this is a major sign that institutions view the XRP product differently than they view Bitcoin. And you can take that for what you will, because Bitcoin has the digital gold narrative. But what is XRP in the process of becoming? A financial instrument inside the United States. And that's why I think we're seeing substantial demand. If you enjoyed this content, guys, smash that like button, leave some thoughts underneath the video. We're going to wrap up today's show by showing you all a video of Brad Garlinghouse telling the world how in 2013, a war between Ripple and Swift kicked off. And little did he know it would lead them to where they are today. Here it is.
So as I mentioned this morning, this is our 9th Swell. Some of you remember, there are a few people that were here for part of this, but the concept of Swell popped up in 2017, and it was the reaction to Swift wouldn't let us attend Sibos. Some people don't know, it's a true story. We couldn't get space, a booth at Sibos. And so we decided, this is in Toronto, and we decided, Sibos, the land of big banks, we were the disruptors, literally. So we went down the street, we hosted our own event, and admittedly, it was a little bit of a warehouse. It wasn't nearly what we have today, but it was anchored by speakers like Ben Bernanke. And I think very quickly, Swift regretted their decision because they created more of a monster by pushing us out. Well, 9 years later, the world looks profoundly different. Some of the biggest financial institutions in the world are here in this room with us, but it's not just them. We have the prime brokers, the application builders, the investment banks, the ETF issuers, as we just discussed, and everyone in between. Crypto and blockchain have moved from being taboo words to being part of the fabric of society. And let's be clear, you are all part of this movement. In fact, you all are this movement. So thank you. I am beyond grateful to have witnessed this fundamental shift in how the financial layer of the internet is changing and evolving. The work is nowhere near done, but if the conversations over the last 2 days have proven anything, it's that although we have come a very long way, we are all just getting started. I've said this before, but it is truly, and I say this somewhat humorously, an amazing time to be alive. We are witnessing the rewiring of financial infrastructure. We're witnessing enabling things that were simply not possible before. It truly is, I believe, the economic opportunity of a lifetime to enable and catalyze this rewiring. I'm extremely proud that Ripple has been leading from the front, both with lawsuits, but in a lot of other ways as well. So for over a decade, we've been leading with transparency, we've been leading with a compliance-first posture, and we've been leading with the goal of championing not just XRP, but the entire industry. I feel extremely lucky to have had the privilege of leading this company, and of course, an honor to be part of the larger XRP community. All right, so before I sign off and let everyone get snacks and drinks, one important public service announcement. I'm excited to share with you guys that our 10th Swell is gonna be a little bit different. As you guys know, the Swell has tended to cater towards the institutional audience We've had separate events like Apex that is catered to developers. But we are excited to expand Swell to include not just financial institutions and payment providers or asset managers, but bring in the developers, bring in the investors, bring in the researchers, bring in the academics, and the broader XRP community who we've hosted at other events. This is going to be one single beacon event. Will be hosted by Ripple next year, back here in New York City. And we look forward to welcoming you all there next fall.
Well, as Brad clearly outlined, this is a very unique time to be an investor inside of the crypto space. And with maximum uncertainty comes maximum opportunity. There's two situations here. There's a situation where the United States passes the Clarity Act, and there's a situation where they don't. If bullish investors are correct and we see the Clarity Act approved, we are going to see Ripple products in the XRP ledger expand in a way that I think we've been predicting very accurately on this channel. If not, if they're unable to get the Clarity Act across the finish line, we are in regulatory no man's land and the future lies in uncertainty. If you enjoyed this content, smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you all in the next one. So if you're looking to do the same strategies that we implement here on Good Evening Crypto, I would advise everybody sign up for Merlin and click on the ITrust Capital link below. Now, why did these two ideas play off one another? Merlin is going to allow our listeners to understand where they should be taking profit in this market, and ITrust is going to allow our listeners to take that profit tax-free through an IRA product. Now, that's not the best part about this. We are giving new clients a $100 sign-up bonus using the promo code GEC9. So I would encourage everybody, click on the link below the video, use promo code GEC9, and set yourself up for success during this crypto bull market.